Sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.
School that day. Shortly afterwards, he called the LVMPD to file a missing persons report. At that time, Metro Police began an exhaustive air and ground search attempting to locate Stephanie. At approximately 8:40 that evening, near the intersection of Stewart and Nellis, several of her school books and belongings were found in a desert area. At that point, search parties responded to that area and began searching and located Stephanie's body about 25 yards off of a trail that she normally took while walking to school. At autopsy, we learned that Stephanie had significant blunt force trauma injuries and that she had been sexually assaulted. The Clark County Coroner's Office ruled her death as a result of strangulation. The LVMPD homicide and forensics section began a decades-long investigation. We have identified multiple persons of interest over the last several decades, and investigators have traveled all throughout the United States to Washington State, Ohio, and Texas, following up on this case over the years. It was not until July of 2021 that we were able to identify a suspect in Stephanie's murder. Continuing to work this investigation, Metro's forensics lab received an outstanding donation from an anonymous donor last year, offering to pay for some new forensic technology on one of Metro's cold cases. Stephanie's case was chosen specifically because of the minimal amount of DNA evidence that was available. As a result, we have identified Darren Roy Marchand, who has been positively identified as the person who sexually assaulted and murdered Stephanie in 1989. Here to explain the testing is LVMPD Forensics Director Kim Murga. Kim?
Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Murga, and I'm the Director of Forensic Laboratory Services, and I will provide an overview of the forensic DNA testing that was performed in order to bring this case to closure. In 1998, this case was first tested with older DNA technology that is no longer utilized. In February of 2007, items of evidence were once again tested, and a DNA profile was obtained from the shirt that Stephanie Isaacson was wearing. The DNA source was seminal fluid that was identified on her shirt. That DNA profile was uploaded into CODIS, the combined DNA index system, back in 2007. From 2007 to 2020, over 13 DNA samples were processed and compared against the suspect DNA profile. However, none of those profiles were a match, and the DNA profile that was entered into CODIS has not hit, and it's been over 14 years. In 2018, the Golden State Killer was identified using genetic genealogy, which is a type of testing that was subjected to this particular case. And in 2018, the LVMPD subjected our first cold case to genetic genealogy testing. From 2019 to 2021, we have subjected an additional 14 cases to this new technology. This is not a technology that we offer in-house. This is something that we outsource to private DNA laboratories. That testing consists of sophisticated DNA technology to identify thousands of different markers, to obtain genetic information associated with the killer in a homicide, an unsolved sex assaults, or even unidentified human remains. And then that genetic genealogy information is subjected to genealogy evaluation, where an expert will evaluate vital records, identify information, and perhaps be able to bring that genetic information to a family tree in order to link a subject. In November of 2020, Othram DNA Labs reached out to us and indicated they would like to offer their services to process a cold case using this new technology in an effort to solve. And as Lieutenant Spencer indicated, it was the funding source was from an anonymous donor in order to perform this testing. In January of 2021, the forensic lab, in conjunction with our cold case homicide team, submitted the remaining evidence that we had, which had very little DNA left. The equivalent of 15 cells was submitted for this testing. And within 7 months, that testing was completed just a week or two ago. And in that case, the subject that Lieutenant Spencer indicated was identified.
I just want to talk a little bit about the suspect in this case, for some background on him. He is, again, Darren Marchin. He was actually arrested prior to Stephanie's murder in 1986 at the age of 20 for the murder of Nanette Vandenberg, who was 24 years of age. Vandenberg had been found strangled in her residence on February 27th of 1986. That case had been dismissed at the preliminary hearing due to lack of evidence. Marchant committed suicide in the Las Vegas area in 1995 prior to his 30th birthday. So unfortunately, there will not be a criminal process in this case. I do have a statement that I would like to read from the mother of Stephanie, and I'm going to quote verbatim. "I'm glad they found who murdered my daughter. I never believed the case would be solved. It's good to have some closure, but there is no justice for Stephanie at all. We will never have complete closure because nothing will ever bring my daughter back to us." This 32-year-old homicide was solved because of the forensic work and genealogy work. Due to the limited amount of DNA that was available, that was just spoken about, the chances of this case ever being solved without this new technology was very, very slim. The LVMPD would like to thank Othram Laboratory for their hard work on this very difficult case, but the biggest thank you goes to the generous donor, who is Justin Wu, W-O-O, who made all of this possible. Not only Stephanie's family and friends, but our community finally has closure for this horrible crime. One other thing I want to say, and just while they're both behind me, we are not here without the work of our forensic laboratory. You talk about people that work in the background. When we talk about the success of the homicide section in this community, we are not successful without the work that our laboratory does. So again, not just this case, it is every case. The work that our forensic laboratory does is absolutely exceptional, and I just want to say thank you from our section to both Kim and Kelly, who are behind me, for their work. With that, I'll take a couple questions if you have them. Yes?
So Justin Wu, the donor, do you know if he had any connection to any of the cold cases you guys are investigating, or what drove him to donate that?
I don't know what we just learned who it was late yesterday afternoon, and I was given permission to announce his name, but I don't know anything specific on what led him to give that donation. Oh, I'm sorry.
And as a follow-up, I will say that we were reached out to by Othram Labs first, indicating that an anonymous donor wanted to sponsor the working of a cold case. So we do not believe that he had any connection to this case, because we chose the case after we received word that there was an anonymous donor that wanted to sponsor the working of a case.
And just to clarify, this is like an ancestry, you don't need to say, but genealogy that we take, put in the tree, that's how this was all solved. So like that California case.
Yes, correct.
What was her cause of death?
Her cause of death was strangulation. All right. Thank you, guys.
Do you
Appreciate.
know if the victim and the suspect knew each other at all, or is it random?
It appears to be a random attack while she was walking to school. Thank you.
Okay, so you just heard from Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. They're discussing a homicide cold case dating back to 1989 on 14-year-old Stephanie Isaacson. You can see her picture there. She went missing more than 30 years ago. Police say they've now made a crack in this case, a suspect thanks to new forensic technology, which was funded by a generous donor. And the suspect, Darren Roy Marchand, was identified through DNA testing. However, police say that he committed suicide, and so there will be no criminal process after this. We will have much more on this developing story for you online at lvrj.com, including a statement from the family that Lieutenant Ray Spencer read. You can also download our RJ mobile app to get news alerts sent right to your phone. We also have a 7 at 7 a.m. and p.m. newscast available on Roku, Apple TV, YouTube, Amazon Fire, all of your favorite streaming platforms. I'm Jen Ah. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We'll see you back here at 7 tonight.
You've been watching breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.